Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Jim McCotter. This is Christian Manifesto, God's Civil Mandate. This is the introduction. Can you answer these questions without a doubt? Question number 1. Is it God's desire for non-Christians to be civil rulers? What about secular rulers or Muslims or Buddhists or Hindus or Socialists, Marxists, Communists, atheists, agnostics, or humanists of any kind to be civil rulers? Number 2. Is it God's desire that any non-biblical law be the civil law of any city or nation? What about the law of the Muslims' Koran or the Buddhist Tripitaka or the Hindus' Vedas or the Marxist Communist Manifesto or the Socialist Humanist Manifesto or any other secular law? Number 3. Does God determine the fate of all nations based on Christians in that nation? If so, do you know what the basis for God's determination would be? Did you know the Bible addresses all these questions? And since the time of Christ until the 20th century, most Christians would know the answer to all these questions. But today, most Christians, nor even their pastors, know the answer to these questions. No wonder Christians are losing cities in America to the immoralists, to the left, the socialists, the communists, and even Muslims. Some Christians think politics or government is not our biblical business. We're just to stay in our little churches and only pray for whoever our, quote, so-called civil rulers, quote, are. But this writing is for Christians who think something may be missing and we have a serious problem. And what we've been doing is only slowing down our total national downfall at best. Even though there are some positive signs from time to time, overall our country is not getting better. America used to be completely saturated with Christian culture from universities to media. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and the first 99 universities were all instituted in promoting the Bible and training pastors. The first 12 newspapers in the United States regularly promoted the Bible and Christianity. Benjamin Franklin, who not an evangelical Christian himself, nonetheless, being so saturated in believing in the Bible, printed all of the evangelist George Whitfield's long sermons in all his newspapers. Most people today have no clue how Christianized all of America was even into the mid-20th century. Not until the 1960s did the immoralists in universities and our government and judges begin to expose their Marxist agendas. Not only do young people have no idea how Christianized America used to be, but they're now being taught lies to distort how Christianized America really was. Based on national historical cycles, at this point in our nation, with the Marxist masses growing in number and getting more aggressive every day, a revolution or civil war may result. In 1776, America, being dominantly Christian, believed their revolution was a biblical revolution for justice. In 1861, American Christians believed their civil war was a biblical civil war for justice. The issue today is not over black slavery, but over national Christian slavery. God's law versus man's law. Morality versus immorality. One nation under God versus one nation under Satan. One nation under men versus one nation under King Jesus, King of Kings. Many Christians naively believe in sustained, peaceful pluralism. Peaceful pluralism only lasts until the opposition gets strong enough to start attacking. The group that continues to believe and pursue for pluralism will eventually lose their nation. Here is what most don't understand about so-called American pluralism. To begin with, there was virtually no such thing as pluralism in colonial America from 1620 to 1776, the American Revolution. And even then, most colonies had Protestant Christianity as their state religion and no pluralism. Even after the American Revolution, 8 of the 13 states continued to have their state under the Christian religion and no pluralism for non-Christians being civil leaders. State laws continued this well into the 19th century. However, even when pluralism became legal for state civil leaders to be of other religions, America was so dominantly Christian that practically it did not change much until the 1960s. It was then that anti-Christian opposition, who did not honor God and the Bible, became strong enough to openly attack our Christian culture. Mass public protesting began to happen often then, protesting against everything Christian and God's law, and carrying on even today, systematically changing moral laws to immoral laws, Bible and prayer out of schools, sodomy and gender laws instituted, etc. Legally allowing pluralism, anti-Christian religions into our government, opened up Pandora's box. It was contrary to early American law and God's law. As a result, today virtually half of our congressional leaders are immoral Democrats. They vote unanimously, the Democrats vote unanimously for all unbiblical laws. And Barack Obama and Joe Biden were some of the most abominable anti-Christian leaders. Donald Trump has been one of the most pro-Christian and pro-biblical leaders, even publicly promoting Christianity and the Bible. When most Republicans have been in office, they've only slowed down the American downfall at best. Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump have done more than most, to some degree, turning the nation back to God and His law. Today we are seeing how vast the Antichrist left has saturated into every part of our nation, from the streets to the government. Many are now openly socialist, communist, mayors, governors, congressmen and women, and even judges. Trump and his administration may be the last hurrah. I doubt if any other Republican president will ever be able to push back the godless opposition as Trump does, assuming a Democrat never takes over again. If Christians don't see this now and go from churches to protesting in mass on the streets and in mass into the voting booths this next election, I predict this will be our last hurrah. I believe the United States may be over as we have known it, unless there is now a spiritual revolution and leaders rising up like Ishkar. 1 Corinthians 12:32, the Bible says Ishkar's leaders understood the times and knew what Israel should do, end quote. This is the mission of Christian Manifesto, to give light to understand our times and know what our people should do. In the 18th century, evangelist George Whitefield preached thousands of sermons in every major town and city, going up and down the American colony coastlines 7 times on horseback. Had Whitefield not done that, there may have been no American Revolution. It was Whitefield's work that united the previously disunited colonies and ignited and armed the majority Christian population with courage, faith, and biblical understanding to stand up against the most powerful government in the world, Great Britain. It is no different today. The United States is the most powerful government in the world today. But today, where are the Christians, like the pastor and Christians that went out from their little church in Lexington to be the first to stand up against their government's army and even die resisting their unrighteous civil authorities? But today, it's the leftists that have come out marching in the streets and fighting everything Christian in God's law. If they continue to do more than us, they will win. We must face reality. Pastors, Christians, we have been losing this war in our nation, and I believe for one of 3 reasons. 1, we don't know that we're in an actual war. Or 2, we don't know how to fight to win this war. Or 3, we love our life more than sacrificing it for God and family. Christian Manifesto will inspire you who believe we are in a war and are praying, and especially if you want to know and do what God says to win the war in our nation for Jesus and our King of Kings. You will see God's vision and His biblical marching orders. This is not for the faint in heart. It is God's Christian Manifesto. A side note, I will be responding live to questions and reactions to all the above Monday, 1/12/2026 at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Substack at Jim McCotter Live. You have to get the Substack app to view and participate.